Wasabi wallet. I'm fairly private.
What's up everyone? I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to put together your own Bitcoin node using a Raspberry Pi, a few other things, and the resources at mynodebtc.com. This is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, LEDN.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services. They have Bitcoin savings accounts where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin, paid in Bitcoin. They've got Bitcoin-backed loans where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral to obtain a Canadian or US dollar loan. So if you happen to be in a pinch and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, maybe this is an option for you. And then finally, for those Bitcoin bulls out there, if you want, you can check out their B2X offering. I started playing around with this, conservatively, but I still started playing around with B2X. And what this does is it gets you double the exposure to the price fluctuations of Bitcoin. So if you want to check any of these out, there's a link in the show notes down below. And if you opt to get a Bitcoin-backed loan, they'll credit your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin using that link. Secondly, we have Rise Wallet. This is a physical Bitcoin gift card that you can give to anybody. I think this is a super kick-ass way for onboarding new users to Bitcoin. So you Bitcoin pros out there that are looking to figure out how can I easily get my friends and family into this very simply, this is it for me anyways. I've gifted this to a bunch of people. It's super idiot proof. Basically, you pick it up at a store near you, you gift it to somebody, and they're instructed on the back of the card to download the paired app, scratch and scan a code on the back of the card, and at that point it creates them a brand new Bitcoin wallet on their phone and then sends them an on-chain transaction for the face value of the card. Again, super idiot proof, really great for new people. Head over to risewallet.com to check them out. Click on locations and you'll see where you can pick one up at a store near you. They're currently only in Canada, but please do keep an eye out because they're looking at expanding, and there's a whole bunch of exciting stuff in the cards for them. And with that, let's dive into the video. Okay, so on the desk here, I have everything I'm gonna need to make my own Bitcoin node. We have a Raspberry Pi. This is a Pi 3B. So the newer version of the Raspberry Pi 3. There are, the Raspberry Pi 4 is out and probably better used for this situation, but I did want to show that it's possible with this. I've got a hard drive enclosure in which I'm going to put in a 1 terabyte hard drive. This is a mechanical drive, not an SSD. Again, an SSD would be better served for this purpose, but it is possible with a regular mechanical hard drive. I've got my power that will go to the Raspberry Pi. I've got a network cable, an Ethernet cable. I've got a case for my Raspberry Pi to go into. And then I've got some bonus stuff that you probably don't necessarily need, but is fun to have. And a couple books. Now, while we're at it, this is going to be a node that I'm putting together with for my friend. His name is @GriffinDave on Twitter. So it's going to be his first node. So Dave, shout out to you. But I did want to quickly show you that I do have my version of the node running here. Now this one is on a Raspberry Pi 4, and it is using a 1 terabyte SSD, so a solid state drive. And obviously I've got a different case here. It has a fan and everything. So it's a little bit fancier, sorry Dave, but definitely still manageable to use with lesser hardware. I just, wanted to ramp it up a little bit when I did it on my own. So just know that it may vary depending on your setup, but the key takeaway is that you need the Raspberry Pi and you need a minimum 1 terabyte of space, and then the necessary connectors like power and Ethernet. Oh, and one last thing that I forgot to mention in the Raspberry Pi, I guess I should have taken it out earlier, but come on, focus, an SSD. So you can't see here. The 32 gig SSD should do you just fine. Sorry, micro SD, not SSD. What am I talking about? A micro SD card, 32 gigabytes should do you just fine. And with that, let's piece this thing together. One quick note, I will include a list of the items that I used in my own personal node in the show notes down below. So if you're curious about exactly what I used for my node, not this one here, but the one that's sitting on my shelf, again, that's in the show notes down below. Okay, so we are going to start with the Raspberry Pi. As I said before, this is a Raspberry Pi 3B, so it's the newer model of the Raspberry Pi 3, but I would say that a Raspberry Pi 4 would be better suited for this. We've got our SD card here. Now we're gonna leave this off to the side for the entirety of putting this thing together because we're gonna use it with our computers before adding it into the actual device. So I'm just gonna slide this off to the side. First, let's get this thing into a case, all right? So every case is gonna be a little bit different, but they're usually pretty simple to set up. Obviously, this one is quite a bit different than the one I used for my own node, but pretty much you're just gonna put it into the little tray at the bottom. There's one side here, obviously this one makes sense, it goes with the ports. So I just kind of have to snap that one into place, like so, looks good. The other side just slides down into place. Okay, we've got a top partition that I can just slide down, snap together. Finally, we've got the top, which goes on this way, snaps into place. Okay, there's the device put together. And then other than that, we've got our power cable. And it's going to be pretty obvious when you take it out because it only fits one place. There's a little power port on the side here. So just reviewing what's on this thing, Ethernet cable, 4 USBs, there's a power, there's HDMI, and this is for sound. We're only going to use the power on this side, so that's plugged into the side. One thing to note that the power cable is essentially the on button. There is no actual on button. When you cycle the power, when you power it up, that signals for it to turn on. And then there's a menu when you load up the software here. There's a menu that tells you or that you select to actually shut the device down, after which you can unplug it. So that is your on/off switch right there. Okay, so let's get this out of the way, unplugged. Let's take a look at our hard drive here. So we've got our 1 terabyte. This is a hybrid hard drive actually. It's mechanical, but it has a small partition that is a solid state drive. I would recommend getting at minimum 1 terabyte, and I would actually recommend getting a solid state drive as opposed to a regular mechanical hard drive. But if you want to do it on the cheap, this will function. It'll just take a little bit longer and be a little bit less efficient. Then we've got our enclosure with its cable. So this is really simple. Essentially, this just protects the hard drive, but the enclosure will vary depending on what kind you get. This one just happens to slide off the top. And with all of them, for the most part, it's going to plunk in like inserting a Nintendo cartridge almost. You just line up the ports here, and it literally just slides into place. You gotta add on the top again. Nice and secure. And then again, you don't really have a lot of options here. There's a single port to plug into. Now, we've got the hard drive done. You can take your Raspberry Pi, and as you guessed it, this is a USB cable. This will just simply plug in to any one of the USB ports that you like. There you go. So you've got your Pi and you've got your hard drive. You've got your power, which I'll leave for now. And you've got one more thing. Oh, I'm dropping stuff everywhere. You've got your Ethernet cable, okay? A lot of you will probably just have these kicking around, but if you don't, then they're super cheap to pick up at the store. But as you guessed it, there's only one port for it to go into. Boom, that goes in there. The other end of it will go into your router at home. And your router will have a whole bunch of additional ports that you can put this into. You can make your pick. It doesn't matter which one. But essentially that's it. You have 2 devices, 2 cables right now, but there's the power cable. So 3 cables, 2 devices and 3 cables. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Let's jump to what we're going to do with the SD card now. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to first plug in this micro SD card into my computer. So now what I want to do is I'm on the myNode BTC website. I'm going to go to the downloads section up at the top. Okay, and I'm going to download an image. It says, what device are you using? So it's going to vary. So if you're on a Raspberry Pi 4, if you're on a Raspberry Pi 3, you can do this as a virtual machine, which is essentially like an operating system operating on your own computer's operating system, like the matrix of systems. There's also the ROC 64 and the ROC 64 Pro. You can, just so I should mention it, if you choose to, you can actually order the hardware from myNode, which will help further support the developers that are working on this, which they fully deserve that. But if you prefer to build it yourself, don't worry, there's another way to support them, which I will get to in a little bit. So we are doing a Raspberry Pi 3. So I'm just gonna hit download, and off to the races we are. It is a sizable file, it's 2 gigs. So it's going to take a little bit of time to download, but we will be back when that happens. So we have the full image downloaded from mynodebtc.com, and we are ready to flash this image to our microSD card, which is plugged into the computer. Now I should also note, now that this is downloaded by the way, all of the steps that I'm going to go through here are actually just below on the download page. It is surprisingly easier than you would think. So if you're unsure or you need to take a closer look after seeing this video, then go ahead, head over to this page, but just give it a try. Okay, so the one thing that you do need is something called Balena Etcher. Now there are other versions of software that can do the same thing, but essentially it's going to take what we just downloaded and put it onto the SD card as a native operating system, so it'll just boot up as a program on the device. So you can get that on balena.io/etcher. I've already gone ahead and downloaded this and installed it, so I'm just gonna flick over to it right here, and this is what the program looks like. So what you're gonna do first is you're going to select your image, and that would be the one that we just downloaded. It's probably in your downloads folder, and you're just going to click on it there and hit open. Now you're going to select your media. Now it automatically picked out my microSD card. If you do want to change what it is, then you can go ahead and click on it, but obviously I've only got one thing plugged in, so I'm good to go there. And then last, I'm just gonna hit flash. And so this is going to go through a process, and I better type in my password here. Okay. And it's just going to quickly run through, and it's going to install this software again as an operating system on the SD card, at which point we can pop it out and we can plunk it into our Raspberry Pi and get started. All right, so we are finished flashing. It went through a few things and then just double checked, and that's about it. So the flash is complete. Our SD card will auto eject, and now we're just going to very simply pull it out from the computer. So that has successfully flashed. We're going to grab our Raspberry Pi. I've still got cords coming off of it, and we're just going to put it into the SD card slot at the bottom of the device, and that's it. Now all we need to do is we need to go ahead and we're going to plug this in. Okay, so for the time being I have shut down my other node, and I've got this one ready to go that we've just put together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Ethernet cable and I'm going to plug it into my router, or rather this extension of my router, but regardless, same thing, just Ethernet cable. I've almost filled this one up, but there is one more port, and sorry, this is not going to be the brightest picture, but there we go, heard it click, plug it into the back. So now internet is connected to the device. Hard drive we already plugged in before, but it is sitting there. SD card we've already put into the back here. Focus, there we go. So SD card is already in there. And the last thing we need is power. So I'm gonna plug this in here first. plugged in. And now we just need to plug this power into the side here. And I apologize for the shot, but I will do my best. Okay, so it's plugged in. I can see that my hard drive is lighting up. I can see lights on the Ethernet cable. Things are happening. And at this point, we're going to jump over to our computer because this is now connected to our local area network. So we should be able to now log on and see this thing syncing up. Okay, and so we're back to the computer. Now again, as I said before, everything I just did is accessible in the form of a guide on the download page here. So all the way through up to booting up the device, and then to log in, it says access via this URL here. So I'm just gonna copy that URL, and I'm gonna go ahead and open a tab. And now this is where I was talking about that if you want to support the team that is working on this, you can opt to pay a one-time fee of $99, and that gets you some additional features, and it also gets you one-click upgrades. Now, if you don't want to use a product key and pay the $99, then essentially it's going to be manual upgrades, which involve learning a little bit of command line, and that may not be super attractive to everybody. I myself have definitely opted to get the upgrade, the one-time fee. You can do that via the order page here. And you can see myNode Premium, $99, one-click upgrades, premium support, software, premium features, all of that. More information is there. And this is also where you would be able to order the actual hardware so you don't have to build it yourself. But regardless, let's take a look at what the Community Edition looks like. So if you don't want to enter the product key, if you haven't bought it, then you just hit Choose Community Edition. You can opt into the product key later. And it says drive mounted, node starting soon, and it will start to sync very quickly here. So we'll come back as that's happening, and then we'll take a look at the finished updated version when it's all done. So everything is now turned on, and now we are brought to the quick sync page. And so this will quick sync with the Bitcoin blockchain while in the background actually downloading a full copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, but this allows you to access your apps and everything quicker. Now, do note that if you quick sync, it does take up additional space on your hard drive. You can go in and actually disable this if you choose through the settings menu. And it will take some time. It can be hours, and depending on your hardware, like if you're gonna go with a Raspberry Pi 3 and you've got a mechanical hard drive, it can take, you know, quite a few hours to sync, especially if you disable quick sync. So keep that in mind. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get out of this current node, and we're going to take a look at mine, which has been fully set up. I'm going to get it all started up here, and we will take a look at what is in the actual device as far as what kind of software stacks you can deal with. Keep in mind, again, this is always changing and always being updated, especially if you opt to get the premium version, in which you will get regular updates single click. So let's go take a look at that. And here we are on my own personal myNode. So I've obviously, it looks a little bit different, but once you're all set up, yours may look a little bit different than mine as well, depending on whether you're using the community version or the paid version. With the paid version, you will have some additional features and services available to you. And also I've changed my theme, so I'm in dark mode instead of light mode. But other than that, this is what you get. So you have a couple core services here. You have Bitcoin, you're running a full Bitcoin node. You're also running a full Lightning node. You're you have access to an Electrum server, so you can connect this to Electrum Wallet on your desktop so that you're not trusting a random server that they provide you. You're running it yourself. You can also, you're connected through Tor by default for both Lightning and Bitcoin, but this allows you private connections externally, so you can connect remotely from your mobile phone if you like. You can also, you are running a VPN. So this is one of the additional services along with Tor services and Electrum server, but you can run your own VPN. You have Ride the Lightning, which is a Lightning wallet, which will be connected to your own Lightning node. You have BTC Pay Server, which is a merchant tool, allows you to set up an online store trustlessly with nobody in the middle and accept Bitcoin and Lightning payments as well as actually liquid Bitcoin via the Liquid network. You have LND Hub, you have LND Connect. LND Connect allows you to connect with connect your Lightning wallets externally with your Lightning node here on myNode. You also have your own Bitcoin block explorer. It's important to note that when you utilize a block explorer online, you're actually leaking your IP address unless you're doing it via a VPN or through Tor. So running your own block explorer just further improves your privacy. You've got Whirlpool, which is CoinJoin mixing via Samurai Wallet. So this is a tool that you can sync up with your Samurai Wallet on your phone. You also have your own mempool viewer, so you can see blocks and transactions waiting in the mempool to be confirmed. And then you've got the command line interface. So if you're familiar with command line, you can go in and tinker around there as well. And then along the bottom, you've got your settings, you've got disk usage. So currently I'm using 43% of my 1 terabyte hard drive, the CPU. So I'm using about 41% of the CPU power right now. I'm using 44% of my RAM, and the temperature is around 50 degrees Celsius. So not too bad. And so more or less, this is what you get out of the box once you have the paid version. Of course, this is being updated at lightning speed, no pun intended, but I've seen on the roadmap, they've got Liquid Network, they've got Samurai Dojo, and a bunch of other stuff in the works, and it's pretty impressive. We are not going to be diving into how to use each one of these things. There's going to have to be a dedicated video for a lot of these different things here. But just know that I don't want to click on this right now because it'll leak my IP address to all of you, but in the settings tab, if you click on this button here, then you can get into things where you can see one-click upgrades, where you can actually check on the status of a lot of these different apps or reinstall them individually. You can shut down your node from this as well as set up dark mode or light mode or however you want to set it up. All of that is within the settings tab there. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, because I know that a lot of people were intimidated to play around and start their own node. I hope that some of you see this and go, oh, that actually wasn't really as difficult as I was expecting. Even just to get this to this stage where it's started, it's running, and then you can start to learn and play around with individual apps. I hope this encourages a lot of you to try it. And please do support the guys at myNode, either by just downloading the software and playing around with it and tweeting it and sharing it on your social media, but I would highly recommend going for the premium, because man, the one-click upgrades are incredible, and it's like every other day I see a new upgrade coming out. So kudos to the guys at myNode. And then if the putting together of the actual hardware and hooking it up was a little bit scary to you, then you always have the option of actually grabbing one of their pre-made boxes too. So be sure to check them out. Definitely worth taking a look, and I'm loving this thing. Yeah, I think it's incredible. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. It is always great to get new eyeballs on these videos. If you want to help out the show in another way, you can always hit up the sponsors I mentioned before in the show notes down below. That was LEDN and Rise. And while you're at it, be sure to check out Wasabi Wallet, which is great. It's a desktop wallet for Bitcoin privacy, so check that out. And finally, you can always check out NordVPN. This is something that I use regularly on my laptop and my computer. Basically, it hides your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and it has a bunch of other added benefits like unlocking geoblock content. So if you want to check that out, there's a link also in the show notes down below, and using that link you'll get a deal where you get 70% off. Yeah, 70% off plus a month free. It ends up being about $3.49 a month. So if you do that, it obviously helps out the show as well. With that, I am out. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next time for your daily session.